The bit you are trying to listen to has not been recorded yet. At the tone, please come up with a funny joke to start the Double Dip Draft Week 2 analysis video.
Wow, you're really just gonna put me on the spot for that, huh?
Oh my god, you have so much time to come up with these! Hello everybody and welcome back to Week 2 of Double Dip Draft Season 8. My name is Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers, and joining me to cover the Magma division
Is Loaf, coach of the Bayou Belly Bolts.
And we got some whoppers this week. Hey,
Whopper, Whopper, double Whopper.
So this division is interesting, and week 1, you saw kind of a decent spread of upsets, close matches, and kind of expected outcomes. And this week, you're seeing a lot of people who have tied up records going into maybe see if they can set a positive tempo or stop the bleeding in week 2. Because obviously, early into week 1, week 2. There's time for you to bounce back, like, even at your best, if you go, like, 0-2, -12 at the beginning, you can still end that season with a 5-2 record and almost guarantee a progression to playoffs, no matter how bad your diff looks. So, nobody should be throwing in the towel yet, but obviously, as is true for every week, you want to be trying to win these.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if you do, like, make it to, like, last week, you haven't won a single match, at that point, like, you gotta get your one. You gotta really do it. And at the end of the day, worst comes to worst, chaos. Maybe you manage to get someone's differential and just, you get to be the sole reason that person doesn't get to go to playoffs. And you get to hold your head high because you're that guy.
Well, what's fun is, like, maybe fun is not the right word, perhaps consider stressful or interesting. Tiebreakers are very important, I think, especially in divisions where you have a lot of people kind of vying for the same couple of spots. You can more or less expect that, some people might be winding up with near the same record, maybe the same win-loss diff. And obviously, if it goes up to 2 people with the same win-loss diff, one person gets preference based on their head-to-head matchup. And so there is value in picking up head-to-heads, ideally. And one of those matches I think is very interesting and should definitely be considered. We're going to go ahead and talk about it now. Is our first match, which is Anchor of the DuDanishDunsparce versus Milotics of the Bekasi Bisharps. I would like to apologize for correcting White Loaf's correct pronunciation last week to say it wrong. I googled it, so,
White Loaf. I was gonna say White Loaf always right, but that's very not true.
Yeah, rare White Loaf dub, perhaps.
Yeah, extremely rare. This is the first time we've seen one of these in centuries.
Yeah, we gotta really pay some attention to it. Okay, Anchor came into this actually, so both of these players I would say are doing pretty well on diff, because although Anchor is coming into this at an 0-1, they're only -1. It was an incredibly tight match against Vincent, the top seed out of the division, so Anchor honestly doing fine versus Milotics, who came into this at a 1-0 +5, so also has some diff to burn, frankly. Yeah. I think if there are any 2 people who are decently comfortable, even though Anchor lost their week 1, again, based on seed, that's going to be your hardest match. There's not going to be anything as hard, and you brought it as close as you possibly could without winning. So, this is going to look interesting, because Anchor and Milotics are going to be a bit closer in skill level than I think Milotics to Eevee or Anchor to Vincent. And so, this one could go either way.
I agree. Looking at team comp, Anchor's got largely the same team. We do have some different Pokemon. We have Gengar now, as well as Toxicroak. But, we've got Grimmsnarl still for screens, / just prankster shenanigans in general, Politoed for the rain, Swampert, Mega Swampert for rain abusing.
Yeah, for Mega Swampert reasons.
Yeah. And then Sceptile, presumably for Shedtail shenanigans. But, on Milotics, I think aside from Mousehold and Mega Aggron, and I guess Raging Bolt, I don't think we've seen any of these other Pokemon. I don't think we saw Altaria, Torterra, and definitely not Galarian Mr. Mime last time.
Yeah, Metropic actually pulled up with all of his Terra captains here. You've got Mousehold and Altaria and Torterra all in the mix, so...
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That is funny.
You know, it's easy to kind of overlook Mousehold with that Terra Normal, because it's just like default Terra, but actually Terra Normal Technician boosted Population Bomb is a problem. That's what we in the industry call really strong, so it's no wonder that Anchor felt compelled to bring Gengar as just like a please don't let that instantly beat my team without rain up.
Yeah.
Especially if you can find a tidy up.
Yeah. I also especially love Galarian Mr. Mime with Screen Cleaner, so that way if Anchor is indeed playing those screen shenanigans, which, you know, again, with Grimmsnarl,
yeah.
safe to assume we are,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that can just shut that down instantly.
Yeah, it's interesting but not surprising that Hisuian Samurott got benched for this one, given that Dry Skin Toxicroak actually does excruciatingly well into it. And especially if you're gunning for some kind of tidy-up sweep with Mousehold, you're probably not going to be that sad about losing your spikes from the team building. And again, you know, I think Metropic identifies early on that you don't necessarily want to get stuck into a Scarf Pokemon that's not going to be capable of two-shotting, like a Mega Swampert, for example. So,
yeah,
you know, it makes a lot of sense to me. But,
Same.
You know, it seems, honestly, from Team Preview looking at this, pretty straightforward. Like, a lot of rock, paper, scissors, you know. Raging Bolt doesn't like Mega Swampert because Thunderclap doesn't work, and it's going to outspeed and hit you with a really nasty Earthquake. You know, Grimmsnarl doesn't like Galarian Mr. Mime. Toxicroak doesn't really like Torterra. You know, Altaria's probably going to be Cloud9 to mitigate rain. So there's like a bunch of little things to be aware of. But they got answers, and they got answers to answers, so let's see how it played out.
Let's take a look at these things.
This is
so immediately leading off, getting Reflect, and just immediate Encore. I love it.
Love that from Metropic. Just knows exactly what Grimmsnarl wants to do and punishes it. And Anchor smartly getting that Rocky Helmet in. I mean, behind a Reflect is great, but now there's no Reflect, so alright.
Yep. Getting Cheeky Paralysis, so, you know, now, like, yeah, we still have Prankster shenanigans, but now we can just set up still with priority, or we can just be full parried and do absolutely nothing.
That is true. Makes Grimmsnarl a lot less proactive. And you see even a Stab Drain Punch does just nothing to this thing. And the Iron Defense is scary. You don't want to risk, you know, getting Earthquaked or something by this, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I love the Blunder Policy here.
We love Blunder Policy!
Yep.
Poor man's Z Hypnosis.
Yep, either you get the sleep, or you just get a +2 in speed. And honestly, I'm fine either way with that.
Right, like either one is good. And we're seeing this is a Perish Trap Altaria. But there are a couple of issues with that, because this Perish Trap I don't think works a single time. And a big part of the reason for that is Ghost types can't be trapped, so this Gengar could just leave at any point, even if it hadn't switched out. And also, it ends up not working on other stuff. And just to touch on that, what just happened is, you know, Metropic hadn't gotten it stuck in, but he knew he could waste those turns by switching into immunities, and Anchor got forced out.
Which is a shame to lose all that, like, the stat increases, but, like, at the end of the day, like, you don't want to lose Gengar, especially with Tandem Mouse still just sitting there.
Yep. Knowing when it's time to leave is important. But you'll notice again, you know, the Fire Spin, even if had it still been active, Parting Shot would bypass it. So neither of these traps have actually done anything to keep the Pokemon stuck.
Neosporin never being allowed to shed tail.
Yep. I think Anchor was probably scared of getting Thunderclapped on the Endeavor or something, so you see Grimmsnarl coming in hard. And you find an opportunity to get in Swampert, and Metropic is forced out. Anchor goes for the Ice Punch. I'm not really sure why. Maybe to hit Torterra, but I don't know. Also, Anchor forgot to do their turn one there. Oh no, they were trying to hit Altaria because they hadn't Terra'd yet.
Oh yeah, true.
But yeah, Anchor forgetting to Mega Evolve that turn. It's something that they're struggling with, but get better at.
Yep. And here we get a nice cheeky sleep, and we get to, again, leave just because, you know, Ghost type.
Yep.
And then, unfortunately, we do get Mr. Beef burned. Not, you know, not ideal for Anchor here. Now Altaria can just kind of like sit on this thing. It can't really do a lot to threaten it out.
Yeah, although, interestingly, this Leech Seed grabs so much HP off Raging Bolt that Anchor says, oh wait, I can Shed Tail now again. And they do, back into Don Lockwood. Unfortunately, this is not a great use of the Shed Tail. Like, you're chipping, let's not say you're chipping, you're more or less killing your Sceptile just to get your Rain up, and you don't need to do that. You could have just switched hard into this.
Yeah, especially since we do have Cloud9 on Altaria here.
Yep. And, Grimmsnarl still alive, still able to get off that thing without getting full parried. You see another Fire Spin. I think this one can actually work, but, you know, to what extent does Metropic want to stay in? And I think Anchor is just totally tunnel visioning and not seeing the Terra Water, because that Ice Beam is just not really good in that position.
Yep. Here we get full para, another Dragon Pulse.
Go for the read. Metropic, go for the read. Metropic does not get the read. It's a Burning Jealousy. I don't know why that's so little damage. And then the parting shot. So this Grimmsnarl is still at 1 HP and paralyzed, doing so much.
Another Dragon Pulse.
Another Dragon Pulse. Dude, he's so brave. I wish I were half as brave as Metropic. That is so funny.
Same. And then very lucky freeze from the Ice Punch here.
Yep.
We can now just kind of freely click Earthquake, and like even then, like it's still doing so little.
Yeah, just
like,
that burn.
Only 32%.
That burn is devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Anchor goes for the double here, which I do like, to cover. I'm not really sure what they were expecting to switch in, but it works out fine. Metropic comes back in, and he's forced to eat another Drain Punch, and he knows he can rest it off because he reveals that's his third move, in addition to Iron Defense Body Press. But Anchor reveals Swords Dance, and we see the fourth move on this is Sleep Talk. So Rest Talk, Iron Defense Body Press, actually into a Fighting Resist non-stab, and with Rocky Helmet, and with Drain Punch, like, even without that crit, I highly doubt Mega Aggron was going to win that exchange over time.
Yeah, and now Froggy here is just doing so much damage to everything that comes out. Again, like you said, I do think Anchor is definitely tunnel visioning. You know, they don't see the Terra Water here, so we're going for Rock Tomb. I mean, yeah, it's slowing it down, but it's also frozen. Like at this point, like Drain Punch, Poison Jab.
You're probably already faster because it's bulky like Perish Trap. So you just like get your health back, get another Swords Dance if you're trying to prey on it being frozen. You know?
Yeah, exactly. But you know, still manage to get the kill. We get to kill another Pokemon. We get to kill Raging Bolt and then get our HP back up. But now we have Shell Smash Torterra, and that's terrifying.
Yep. Anchor decides not to even try playing that game. Sacks the Politoed into the Headlong Rush to get a Brain. And even with Burn, things are so chipped at this point that Swampert is able to finish it out.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of good stuff on display from both players, but like just a few optimizations that could have made this a closer game, or frankly to swing in either direction. I mean, you notice that this is a long game, 56 turns, and I don't even think there's a single kill until like in the 30s, maybe even 40s.
Yeah, there's a lot of switching.
I think there's a problem with passivity, and I think we're going to see that a lot in this week for this division. We noted that multiple times for multiple players, but I think that, you know, there were a lot of opportunities for both Matt and Anchor to hard switch into something that could have forced progress, or, you know, to make a read or whatever. And Matt was doing that a little bit with the Dragon Pulses into Grimmsnarl, but ultimately they were just both playing like a little sheepish, a little scared, you know? People were not hitting high damage moves. You were just getting a lot of, you know, Perish Trap, doing a lot of switching around. There weren't even hazards up. So it just... progress was just not happening for so much of the game, and I think just one or two plays, even just getting a rock up on either side early on, could have paid very handsome dividends for either player.
Yeah, like it's okay to try and play passive, but if you are gonna play passive, you have to have like residual damage. And while this, like, there's definitely a bit of passivity here. You know, small spoiler alert, we're going to see a lot of passive plays. In these next couple games.
Yeah. And that's not to say, like, you know, again, passivity is like kind of a higher concept problem to have. Like, obviously, the fundamentals are there for both players. You know, Anchor was able to bring it back in a very impressive manner. And Metropic was putting up a hell of a fight, you know, really stopping a lot of things from being a problem, right? Getting that burn on the Mega Swampert, getting the paralysis onto Grimmsnarl, you know, making the appropriate switches, not just, like, killing his mouse hold on Rocky Helmet with Population Bomb early on. Like, there was a lot of awareness of ways to potentially stay in the game, but not a lot of thought given to how to move the game forward. And I think, you know, just some more aggressive doubles, you know, stuff like that. Just trying to identify, you know, because playing passive is fine, and in fact, it's good for stall teams, and it's fine for getting, you know, gathering information about the opponent's team. But certain things, it's like, okay, well, when you saw the moveset on Mega Aggron, you should have realized it literally cannot touch Gengar. So that's a free, I mean, you can just spam Sludge Wave into it until it just leaves. You know what I mean? Because it can't touch you, it only has Body Press.
Yeah.
You know, the understanding that, like, you kind of don't... I mean, like, if you're parting shot out of, what's his name? Raging Bolt, you know, it's pretty reliable, even if you switch into a Dragon Pulse to get in Mega Swampert. And again, like we said, you know, a lot of Rock Tombs and ineffective or non-stab moves coming out from Anchor when they were in, like, an advantage position, where this could have been closed out a lot faster. And a lot more reliably with stuff like Poison Jab and Drain Punch, or maybe just doing another Swords Dance. Instead of going for Rock Tombs into stuff that's not weak to it, not faster than you, and it's not stab.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
A lot to say about that.
Even if it wasn't Terra, like, you could still just click Poison Jab, and, like, that's still, like, stab neutral damage, especially since it is frozen and slower, like you said.
Yeah. Like, if Anchor was trying to take advantage of the freeze, I think it would have been much better to set up more Sword Stances than to have spammed Rock Tomb. But still, again, like, I'm not here to disparage. Like, I thought that was an overall pretty strong game from both players. I really liked it. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of thought, you know, but it's almost like too much thought. Like, eventually you gotta hit an attacking move, you know? You only win when the other opposing Pokemon faint. So staying alive is great, but if you're not killing anything, then what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but overall, I thought both players played really well this match.
Yeah, but that's a good one to study, I think, from both sides, to get an idea of, like, maybe where they could have found or pushed advantages. It was a good watch. You know, it was a pretty smooth 56 turns, frankly.
Yeah. Alright, but moving on, our next match is going to be Kameth of the washed up Wishiwashis versus Cabral of the Slinging Aegislashers. You know, again, looking at team preview, you know, Kameth, you know, we have Keldeo, Chatot, Crocodile, Garbodor, Egabanet, and Rabombi. And on Cabral's side, you know, more Pico, Zydog, Arboliva, Vaporeon, Hisuian Zoroark, and Regice. And just looking at team preview, Keldeo loves this team.
Yeah, Keldeo is faster than Morpeko. It is, you know, at least neutral or super effective into basically everything else on the team. The only thing that's outrunning it is Hisuian Zoroark, and if you can find a Calm Mind before it comes in, since it's so hard into special attacking, it can be hard to shut down Keldeo and force it out. I mean, the only thing in here is that Terra Fairy Arboliva that kind of stands in the way of Keldeo just kind of full send sweeping this team. Because even something like a Calm Mind Vaporeon or like a Spadef Vaporeon, Secret Sword attacks, it's the same as Psyshock, where it hits on the physical side even though it's using your special attack. So
yeah,
Keldeo is kind of just a custom package that is set up to mess this team up and kind of prevent it from counterplaying. And it's also just got random weird coverage like Air Slash that makes it so that even something like Shedinja, had it come, couldn't really stop Keldeo.
Yeah. But I think, you know, with that being said, might be time to go ahead and just get into the match.
And we will.
Yeah.
You see lead Rabombi to nobody's great surprise, but what you may find to be to your surprise is the Trick Sticky Bar, or the Switcheroo Sticky Bar, I should specify.
Yes.
And this is just a new version of, you know, your normal sort of Sash lead Rabombi, except instead of Sash, it has a Sticky Bar it gives to somebody before getting up webs.
Yeah. Kim has probably noticed that nothing can really kill Robombi from full. Obviously, it's gonna be able to two-shot no matter what, but like that's still a free switcheroo and then sticky web, so no need to run to Sash there.
Yep. And
then a good air slash on Arboliva.
Yep.
But just look how much health he gets back.
Yeah, and then Cabral also reveals here that it's a light screen set, although it doesn't have light play, so the light screen isn't as much of a pressure point, but still, that thing was surprisingly bulky. Arboliva is the kind of thing that you never think about until you're like, God, why can't I kill it? I don't understand. Revealing red card on Garbodor, which forces the Vaporeon out. Not its intended purpose, but certainly just fine value, keeps the ball rolling for Kenneth.
Yeah, I never realized Arboliva got U-turn. That's crazy.
It's weird, certain Pokemon are just kind of like stacked, and it's like, why don't we
what?
talk about Arboliva a little more?
Yeah, also, it got HP back. It has a Regenerator all of a sudden? What?
Well,
so, that very much reveals that Hisuian's Aurora. But then, we get this amazing play. So, locked into Outrage, going for the Prankster Destiny Bond, and now, boom,
Yep.
Zydog, no more.
Yeah, and that's a great trade on Kevin's part. I mean, obviously you don't want to sack your Mega ideally, but Cabral's also revealed a lot of heavy-duty boots on this team. In total, Morpeko and Zydog and Hisuian Zoroark are all boots. So he showed some really good awareness of like T-Spikes, Spikes, Webs being an issue, and he's still able to spin them away to maybe make this endgame a little more tolerable.
Yeah. I imagine we're probably just trying to get rid of the spikes and T-Spikes purely because I'm pretty sure at some point Vaporeon does lose the poison at some point.
Yeah, but Heal
Yeah,
Bell's right
the
here.
Heal Bell. Yeah, there we go.
But the thing is, like, Arboliva needs to be able to switch in, especially on this thing, and it can't because, in part, it keeps getting like poisoned and pricked by the spike.
Yep.
It's a nice wish pass though.
Yeah. Regular poison is definitely better than being toxic, but like at the end of the day, this is a +2 Keldeo. Doesn't love this right now. And we get a flinch.
Yeah, Air Slash is presumably on a reader as a mid-ground, but he does get rewarded with the flinch in front of this thing. Not that it could have really done much into a +2 special defense. And you see here, he's just trying to get maybe a crit or something, but yeah, Hisuian Zoroark is Dunskies, and Keldeo does as Keldeo does, is what we discussed at Team Preview. There just were very few checks to it, and once they were gone, Kenneth identified like it's go time.
Yeah. I don't need to think about it. I can just come out, click my flight buttons, and boom, win the game.
That's true. And that was the way it was. Even with the, it was good awareness from Cabral's side to get so many boots because a lot of Kenneth's strategy revolved around hazard stacking with Garbodor. And it did force him to kind of modulate his play. And again, Arboliva just randomly being bulkier and more annoying than I think maybe anybody expected it would be from scrims or from wherever like context you're looking at it. It proved to be somewhat annoying to remove in the match. It did take Keldeo, it really needed that +2 to not get folded by like, Leech Seed Stall and stuff like that. So, Keldeo did leave itself exposed to being toxic by Vaporeon and stuff like that, but ultimately it just didn't happen. And I think that's a sort of a problem with Cabral. We were talking about like passivity. Vaporeon was getting in, but what did Vaporeon actually accomplish? It's wish passing into Arboliva, then Arboliva takes 60 from a serve after its Terra. Like, it's not moving the needle in your direction. You're just kind of sitting there getting walloped over and over. We didn't see... I think the most progress we even saw from Cabral proactively was Zydog, and, which was good. It was well played, but Kenneth had, a thing for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, it's absolutely okay to play passive, but if you are going to play passive, you need a way to passively damage your opponent. We saw, like, Light Screen. We saw a lot of things to, like, boost defense or, like, special defense. But nothing to slowly chip your opponent down or put them on a timer. There is no toxic from Cabral. There is no hazards from Cabral. It was all just for the sake of trying to essentially prolong the inevitable.
Yeah. The idea of just like keeping yourself alive, but not trying to take out your opponent's Pokemon. Like, if your entire time is spent trying not to be killed, you're not making any progress towards your, goal of completion, which is you're not you're not killing their 6 Pokemon. You need their 6 to go, and at least one of yours to stay. And if you're only concerned with keeping your 1 alive, then their 6 is just going to go crazy. And playing on the back foot is no fun.
Yeah, and even if you are trying to, like, you know, just defend, like, you have to do that against, like, Pokemon that only have, like, a few amount of moves they can use. Like, Keldeo, you know, Surf, you know, that's at least 16 PP. Air Slash is a decent amount. Secret Sword, I think, is also at least 16 PP. Like, you're not going to stall out those moves anytime soon, especially without, like, pressure.
Yeah. So you need it to be toxic, you know, you need it to be roared, you need to, you know, if you're gonna Wish Pass, like, Cabral left a lot of his good Pokemon on the bench. You saw no, I don't know if I call Shedinja good Pokemon necessarily, but, you know, we didn't see any Shedinja, you didn't see Earthworm, so there was no Shed Tail in play, you didn't see Blaziken, so, you know, I think Cabral may be trying to go for the element of surprise, but maybe sacrificing a bit too much of his actual offense in doing so.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, pretty decent, like a 3-0 from Kemeth. You can live with that. That's okay. He's going to beat most of the people in your division, if not all of them. So,
yep.
You know, that is fine. It's okay. It's not great. I mean, you want to win that, but because because Cabral came into this at already a +5 diff, you know, he remains positive even at the 1-1. Kemeth looking decently comfortable with his first 2 wins, and honestly, you know, neither of them, I think, is going to come away from that feeling all that bad. Just be like, yeah, it is what it is. Learn something about my team. Wasn't the craziest margin. It just happened. And one of the other things that just happened was Eevee, coach of the Puppytown Ponytas, versus Snake of the Miami Milotics. Cool.
Yeah.
Chi-Yu.
Yeah. Chi-Yu. Yeah, funny fish. The snack that smiles back.
The snack that smiles back probably does somewhere in the ballpark of 700 to 1,000% damage with Overheat into Mega Scizor, if I had to guess.
Something like that, yeah. But it's okay, because we also have Heatran, which, you know, loves being able to come in on a Fire-type move. You know, having a Fire immunity with Flash Fire is just so awesome. And, you know, looking at this, you know, looking at these teams, you know, like, you know, Rotom on Eevee's side actually goes kind of hard. You know, being able to Volt Switch on, like, most of these Pokemon, especially since, like, this draft, or I say this draft, this team, at least, is pretty slow, all things considered. Like, I always look at Basculete and I expect it to be faster, but I think it's, like, 284 max speed. It's not even 280.
It's 280.
Yeah,
it's pretty slow.
That's crazy.
The thing is, I wouldn't necessarily call it slow, but it lacks speed. You know, it's very middling and very underwhelming and very easy to, you know, push past with a good Scarfer. You know, or it forces Snake to bring a good Scarfer. And I mean, again, looking at Eevee's team, we talked about this in the draft analysis. We talked about it week 1. We're going to say this probably every single week, but it's just such an old school, rock solid core that, you know, even here where you don't see it changing week to week very much, it still looks pretty good into Snake. You know, Weavile can beat Golden Go. You know, Belly Bolt can get, you know, beaten by Donphan usually. Mudsdale doesn't love Rotom Wash. You know. There's so many things, a Vacuum Wave, or some kind. Really, honestly, even defensively, since it's like resisting both of the Chi-Yu stabs. Kommo-o is annoying to Chi-Yu. Like, there's so much of Eevee's team that is actually pretty annoying to Snake, even though it didn't really change much from last week.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I think the only difference is, you know, now we see Donphan. I think last week we saw something else. It wasn't Donphan, but, you know, just that alone, you know, now you can get up rocks, you can spin away rocks.
I shard to snipe, like, sashes and things like that.
Freeze up having to run Defog on Rotom, which is nice, because Rotom is one of those Pokemon that I think, you know, it wants to run so many moves, but you can only have 4.
That's true. And it's Rotom feels like a Pokemon that loves running a bunch of different items, too. And giving up Defog opens you up to maybe be a more effective, like, choice abuser. You know, either Specs or Scarf or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe, you know, you get to run Wisp with your offensive moves. Or, you know, there's so many different things. Maybe you get Volt Switch and Thunderbolt, so you're not forced to switch to get that electric damage. So there's a lot of different things that Eevee can do, even though the Pokemon don't change. Like the movesets and the items and stuff make such a difference to each of the things in this core.
I agree.
And then Snake, I mean, again, not to overlook it, with funny observation we made, Eevee's average generation is like 4, most of her Pokemon are super old, and the oldest Pokemon on Snake's side is from Gen 7. It's Serena and Mudsdale are pretty new, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
So, you cover this for a second. I have to answer the door.
Absolutely. So, coming out first, we do see the Donphan and Mudsdale lead, not surprising, and just a classic Pebble exchange. Nothing fancy, just good old, here's my Pebbles, good day. We do also get immediately Rapid Spin, away each other's hazards, and we reveal a Rocky Helmet. Now here, I would expect an Ice Shard to come out, but no such luck. Instead, we allow Donphan to go down to a Power Whip. Maybe Ice Shard wouldn't have killed, but like after the Rocky Helmet and Power Whip chip, it absolutely would have there.
Yep.
And U-turn not doing a whole lot and getting stamina boost, but
Solar Beam.
Power Solar Beam. Love it.
Love that. That is good counterplay. And Mudsdale is such a pain for so much of this team that like it's nice that it's just gone.
Yeah.
Incredibly brave of Snake to just hard switch this in on Eevee.
Kind of again, like a very passive play. Like I understand the idea of like, okay, I can burn Basket Legion. This would be huge. But also like, if you're gonna bother to keep it in on a Basket Legion, one, like we saw that flip turn do so much damage. If it had clicked Wave Crash, it would have been over there.
Yeah.
So realistically, you shouldn't even stay in the first place. But alongside that, if you are gonna stay in, Wisp is not the play.
Yeah. You should be hitting Magma Storm or something.
Yeah, like. Because worst comes to worst, they switch, and now you get free chip on literally any Pokemon. Mm-hmm. Or you get the chip on that, and you can just switch out next turn.
Yep. And this is such a worthwhile trade, frankly. I mean, that's really scary because you're risking the Dark Pulse flinch and you're risking the Hydro Pump miss at the same time, but since it just panned out, no crit, no flinch, I'll trade, 75 on Rotom Wash for 100% on Chiyu any day.
And then once again, right there, just another passive play, opting to paralyze the Basket Legion, so again, like more chip on it. And now we're setting up a Belly Drum Salic Berry set.
Which is aggro, but not actually able to kill this. Oh, but it freezes the... Nope, shut up.
Yep.
Nuh-uh.
I like the idea. I'm pretty sure Kamo gets like a Dark-type move. I want to say Throat Chop. So, I mean, like, that can absolutely threaten Golden Go, but instead we just go for a random Ice Punch. And it's just setting up way too early, and an unfortunate static. Imagine now running Electromorphosis on your Belly Bolt,
Cringe, frankly.
You are not using Belly Bolt to your full extent, but also at this point, like, you know what, it did a pretty big para, so...
Yep. I mean, it was good para, and that para made this endgame pretty complicated. Like, she could have maybe gotten away with just spamming Roost in front of Basket Legion until it para'd, and then she could have killed it and then remained at sort of topped off HP to maybe two-shot Golden Go after, but, it's a lot of shoulda, woulda, coulda at that point. Like, I don't know the extent of the moveset. I don't know what the Eevee spreads are. The calcs could be anything. Like, it's all over the place. But it was close. I mean, that was a 1-0. Yeah. It's really tight.
I think for the most part, it was well played. It's just, again, like, there were a couple, like, plays here and there where it's just, like, just a little bit too passive again. And considering how offensive, like, both of these teams are, those, like, small passive plays quickly can blow up in your face.
Yeah, it's just,
so
you gotta use your tools. You gotta use your tools to do the stuff they're for, right? Heatran well applied because it was made to Power Herb Solar Beam Mudsdale. It did that, but then, why are we gotta focus on taking out the counters to our preferred endgame, and she was clearly gunning for that sub-Salic Berry Belly Drum Komao endgame, but it didn't have anything to hit Golden Go, and Golden Go was still at full, so it just wasn't ever going to work out without a bunch of RNG going in your favor.
Yeah. And even with Ice Punch, like, at the end of the day, like, if you have to rely on Ice Punch to hit, like, Mudsdale, like, I would hope that, at the very least, Mudsdale is, like, low enough at that point that you don't even need to click it. You can just instead rely on your +4 and hit Drain Punch instead.
Yeah.
And then that extra like move slot could have been used to deal with Golden Go.
Yeah. So I liked this game, but again, I feel like it could have so easily swung for Eevee if she just, was a little more aggro, played a little bit more aggressively, was thinking a little bit more towards like how specifically the game needs to be played at the end game. Like, what Pokemon am I saving to be my cleanup? How do I get there? What stops me from using Como? Because I think just a couple of very simple questions, maybe changes the game plan like 10%, and then she wins. So
yeah.
But still, I liked the game. I thought it was pretty solid. I liked it. I really like both of their teams. I love the tech for Mudsdale, and frankly, I thought Snake just has also again a very solid core. Nothing crazy flashy with Golden Go Chi-Yu, but I mean it's gets the job done.
It's Golden Go Chi-Yu. That sometimes that's all you need.
That's right.
But moving on to our final match, we have Eevee Inc. versus Vincent, coach of the Heerlen Hawluchas.
Yeah, we have got this again, at the risk of sounding perhaps a little callous, I never want to, be mean on these things, but, this is top seed versus bottom seed in this division. Nobody's really expecting this to not go for Spoopman. This match it's going to be hard. It's not that Mekira doesn't have the tools. He definitely could win this, and certainly, this is the most killable looking draft that I've ever seen Vincent end up with. But still, he's like, nobody's really going to, I don't know. It doesn't look great on a seeding level, and the teams are a lot more even than they were, but this is just going to be basically a bunch of knowledge checks. Again, it's just Vincent doing knowledge checks against newer players, and this time it's an even newer player with even fewer options.
Yeah, this person drafted, 5 EVs? 4 EVs?
I think so. I mean, counting Terra Captain Eevee, which is, for example, amazing. And I do hope that we get to see, I don't know, like a Terra Stellar Eevee. That'd be so great. Maybe get like a quick attack kill. Who knows?
It'd be fun.
But yeah, I mean, and that's not to say this is totally hopeless. Again, like Ursaluna, Blood Moon, Mega Gyarados, Steelix, and Ditto go crazy. Terra Captain Glaceon's really good. Magic Bounce Espeon can put those rocks back on Vincent's side. Maybe break a couple Sturdies or Sashes. In general,
this is a great lineup. Like still,
especially Steelix and Ursaluna can really handle a lot of like Bolt Beak and they're a little worried about body press, but especially in the case of Steelix, it's just so physically bulky that it can body press right back. A lot of the Pokemon on Vincent's team don't like taking it, and there's only one immunity in Runerigus. So, yeah, it's not out of the question, but let's go ask that question.
Yeah, let's see. So we are leading immediately with our Mega Gyarados.
That's a tough lead for Vincent, but that's a pretty ambitious Dragon Dance, risking getting burnt and body pressed, and no burn, but a second Dragon Dance under the Trick Room, making him slower, which is just, again, I don't think that he prepped for Trick Room. I don't think that he was considering Trick Room. I don't think that he really understood the speed dynamic at play there. And Gigalith is definitely going to be faster under Trick Room, and that is Mega Gyarados taken away pretty early once again.
Yep. But then we do go out into Mega Steelix. This thing, like, if nothing else, this player knows their type matchups right now.
Yep.
And that body press, like, absolutely going to kill.
Yeah.
Here, this is kind of a questionable switch. I understand being scared, especially because, like, we do see low kick, but we're Steelix at +2 defense.
Yeah, we're Steelix at +2 defense, and that's a non-stab low kick. So even if it's doing 120, like, you're probably still gonna live it. And definitely you're going to kill back with that body press, especially looking at that, like, it's kind of a, all-in life orb set. It's not going to be bulky.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just speed is a killer here, because this Calm Mind is not the play. You've got to do a Blood Moon, into, like, a Vacuum Wave or something, but instead
I'm pretty sure this thing even gets Moonblast.
Well, shoot, yeah, I mean, that would have been a better thing to click too. So, yeah, it's really too bad because it's just obvious, like, knowledge checks, but the team is there. It's built to handle these threats.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Steelix in particular looks really annoying for Spoopman to deal with. Even it's close combat, it takes 78 from a +1 close combat on Tyrantrum, and then whoop, kills. Well, that doesn't quite kill it, but it's close.
Yeah, it comes very close.
But
I think if it was Gyro Ball. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. You know, this whole thing is difficult. He has answers for this stuff, but just, you know, not showing that awareness of, like, speed and, you know, not really understanding, like, sacking correctly and, like, you know, managing your pieces into the end game. You know, we talked about last game how, you know, you gotta be more laser focused on, like, how you intend to win and keeping the pieces alive that you need to facilitate whatever end game you're looking for. And here it was just completely like, we ball, you know, let's just see how it goes. You know, I'll just, you know, switch in my type to whatever type it's good against. And, you know, I don't know, but I liked the team building. I really like the team building. It wouldn't be frustrating if there wasn't potential here, but there's obviously, like, something going here, because he's, you know, that looked really solid, and just a couple, again, just so few optimizations on this team. I could see him winning this, you know, so I really hope that
absolutely.
he picks up one, you know?
Yeah. You know, I think we mentioned it, like, during the draft analysis, you know, we look at the team and we see, like, 4 or 5 Eevees, and, like, some people will just write that off, but, like, you know, at the end of the day, like, Eevees are still really good. And on top of that, you have 3 or 4 really scary Pokemon. You know, you have Urshifu Blood Moon, you have Mega Gyarados, you have Ditto, which Ditto alone in draft is just so scary.
Yeah.
And then it's what, like regular Typhlosion, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it's there. Like, the team is there. It's just, you know, kind of getting those knowledge checks, and like you said, learning, like, when to sack specific Pokemon. You know, that's the main thing. Because the team building aspect, like, it is there. This is a good looking team.
Yeah. Thing is, you know, I know he's not, like, prepping super hard. I believe he's not scrimming at all, or maybe just scrimming a little bit, or, you know, like, his priorities out of this are not, like, crazy high, you know. I mean, that's fine. Like, everybody has a different level of investment, but, you know, it's too bad, because I could really see him being a power player with some more, you know, a little more effort.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's fine. Like, it is what it is. Either way, you know, putting in very little, still taking Vincent down to almost a 2-0, just barely a 3-0 victory for him. And honestly, you know, not too shabby. So I think we're going to go ahead and move into the standings. I will take the top 4 if you want to take the bottom.
Sure.
Well, leading the front of the pack in Magma, we have got the washed up Wishiwashis at a 2-0 +6. In second place, we've got the Heerlen Hawluchas at a 2-0 +4. In third, we've got DuDanishDunsparce at a 1-1 +4. And in fourth, right now, we have Cabral the Hatchling Aegislashers at a 1-1 +2.
Yes, and then in fifth, we have the Bekasi Bisharps at a 1-1 0 differential. Miami Milotics is sixth place with a 1-1 -4 differential. Seventh place, actually, it is a tie between 7th place. We have Eevee Inc. And Puppytown Ponytas both at 0-2 with a -6 differential.
And really, like, the diff is pretty tight in this division. I mean, the difference between number 1 and number 7, which is the tie for number 8, right, is 12. Mm-hmm. That's 2 games. You know, they could be as high as 24 right now. And the difference in diff is just like 6-4, 4-2, 0, -4, -6, -6. Nobody's out of it yet, you know, and you've got a lot, you know, big slate, like 4 people at 1-1 right now. So I'm expecting this one to be a pretty hotly contested middle layer, but I do think we're going to probably start to see people kind of sort themselves into player tiers, and you know, we're just going to have to see how it kind of shakes out.
Yeah, no, like, absolutely. Like, you know, right now for me, like, Magma is one of the divisions to watch because, like, it can just be so volatile, like, how quickly this standing can just shift entirely. you know, a lot of people like even sitting at just like 1-1, like, you know, like that's only like -4. Like that can very easily be cleaned up in these next couple weeks. Or even like 0-2. Like at the end of the day, like that, like you get like a couple wins under your belt, and like even without like poor differential, like you still have like wins. Like that's the main thing, is getting those victories up.
Yeah.
You know, your differential doesn't matter as long as you just win every game. Forehead.
That's true. I mean, genuinely, like, you know, diff is nice and all, and it's definitely important, but if you're just winning every game, it doesn't matter if they're all 1-0s, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much all there is to say about Magma this week. It's looking to be a very fun division. I'm excited to see more. You know, if you want to hear me cover Rocket with Cabral, feel free to go and give that one a shout. And if you want to hear Nick cover Skull with Aurora, you can also go ahead and watch that one.
Yes. And if you want to see neither of us, I guess you can go watch Aqua, I guess.
Yeah. If you just actually hated this video and don't want to hear either of us anymore, definitely consider checking out Aqua Division. But for now, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again next week for the week 3 of Double Dip Draft Season 8.